Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the vBrownBag podcast, the weekly IT show where you get all of your IT show and tell taken care of. Your nerd itch is scratched here. We talk about everything from cloud to DevOps to everything in between, certifications, what have you. Tonight, Mr. Peter Sankauskas has come on. He's got a survey he wants us to take. So what we're going to do is introduce him first off, talk about where he came up with the survey, and then get into the nitty gritty of it and start asking some questions. Pete, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
So this is the State of AWS survey that we're going to go through. But before we get into it, let's go through some show notes. If you want to get in on the conversation, please feel free to @vBrownBag or hashtag vBrownBag on Twitter. If you are on Mastodon, we are also @vBrownBag at fosstodon.org. So feel free to give us a shout out from there. Dennis, I'm talking to you. We've got a fan of the show that is on Mastodon, and he is a prolific tutor. Is it tutors for Mastodon and tweeters for I don't know, who cares, whatever. If you want to follow Peter, you can find him at PAS256. A surprisingly easy string of numbers to remember for anybody in IT. And you can check them out there. And if you want to follow me, I am @Mistwire. I highly discourage you from doing that. I say nothing good on any social media format. All right. Pete Sankauskas, what is this survey? What's going on? Why do you want everybody to take it? Who are you? Who is the man behind the curtain?
So just before we get started, the reason that the PAS256 exists, that's been my handle since I was 12. And I'm going to date myself now, but we got a 386 computer when I was 12, and I knew that this thing could do 256 colors.
Yep.
But could I write a program that accessed all 256 colors? No, I could only write it in C++, like Boolean C++ or Turbo C++ version 3 or whatever it was back then. I could do 16 colors, no problem. I could do 64 colors, but 256, like I just couldn't get to that. And so it was like this goal, like I had to create something that had 256 colors. And by the time, the internet wasn't really a thing back then, or at least it wasn't in Australia. So I couldn't like easily research like how to do this. And I went really deep into visa drivers and trying to figure all this out. And then Windows 3.1 came out and suddenly it was doing 16.8 million colors. I'm like, oh, okay, but the name stuck.
So I was assuming 256 was some form of binary extension or exponential numbering, and pass is pass, but I'm also assuming it's your initials. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So survey. So there is this thing called the State of JavaScript. It is a survey that's been running for over 5 years now, I think it is. And I have used this countless times to be able to see what the trends are in the front end world, because they move incredibly fast. Understanding, like, if we were to start a new project today, would I still pick React or would I use Svelte? I've been hearing like good things about that. Like, where are things on their adoption curve? And so, like, coming back to that, or like looking at what library to use, like underneath the hood, what is the state management? Like, there's so many things that move really quickly, but I just really wanted to like understand what tool I should be using or encouraging the team to use. And so I've been using AWS for, I don't know, over a decade now. And for me, each new service that has come out has largely been incremental. So I've been fortunate enough to like be learning each one as it comes out. But if someone's coming into this brand new and you just see a wall of services, how on earth do you pick what service to use? And know that something is liked by the community, it actually has a community behind it, or if it's dead in the water. And there was nothing like that I could find. So while I was at reInvent this year or last year, I started asking around, like, has anyone found a survey like this? Has anyone found like some data that looks like this? And I would show them the state of the JavaScript report. Like, this is what I want to have. Like, what's the AWS equivalent to that? And I couldn't find anyone that had similar types of data. Closest I found was the State of Serverless report that Datadog does.
Okay.
And that is purely from their API, like their telemetry data that they're pulling in. They can see like who's using what services, and they can see some details there. And their report is fantastic. No knock on it at all. Right. What it doesn't capture is the human side of like, so just because you're using it, would you use it again? Like it can't get that from an API. And so I reached out to Sasha who runs the JavaScript meetup survey. Like, I think I want to do this myself. Like, have you got anything, any resources or anything like this? And he's like, well, actually, here is the mono repo of everything that goes into what we've got. I'm like, whew. And they actually got like a multiple different surveys that they've got going on and all that sort of thing. Like, all right, that's kind of intense. I think I just want to do something a little simpler. So I just did it in a Google form and like started sharing it around. Got a bunch of feedback and very much copied their format. And just tweaked it for like the different sections of AWS that I thought might be interesting. And like the hard thing was actually putting the categories in like different, all the services into different categories. So that I'll have data, not just this year, but like multiple years in the future. So I can actually start to do trend lines. So yeah, that was the harder part, but I'm pretty happy with where this has landed. And now it's like, all right, my goal is 10,000 responses. That's a big number. The State of the JavaScript report got 28,000 last year. So I'm like, all right, are there as many JavaScript engineers as there are AWS engineers? Probably not, but I don't know what that number is, but I know a 10,000 person response survey. It's a
good sample
size. That data is meaningful.
Yeah.
And so that is my goal. So I'm looking for all the distribution methods possible.
So how many responses are you up to date?
We are, let me check. So this is
because you just opened the floodgates recently, yeah?
I only just opened the floodgates. We are up to 64 responses.
All right.
So
well,
not quite 1% of 1%.
Well, why don't we start on response number 65 on the show tonight? What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my screen share, and you go ahead and start yours, and then we will fumble through this thing together.
Sounds good. Let me just show you the dream before I get there. This is what I want.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like you can see React, it's starting to lose a bit of retention. Not as many people are using this. And the formulas for how to calculate this, like they've done such a great job and it's all there. So that's there. Then you've got, well, what is the interest in this? Are people still using it? Okay, like people are still using React. But surprisingly, still a lot of people using Angular. Not a lot of interest in Angular though, and sort of the awareness of these different services. So my goal is to get to something like this. And then over time, you can start to build charts like this, where you can see like what the love-hate relationship is with different services.
And are we going to, does this, I mean, obviously we'll be seeing this in a second here, but does the survey cover every single service?
No.
Are you bucketizing it? I mean, because that is
very
a
much
Sisyphean task, considering that they come out with 100 new servers per second nowadays.
I know. I know. No, I did not cover every service.
Good.
And
good,
I think
this show would go way too long if we did.
So even though there hasn't been a ton of responses yet, I think I've hit the sweet spot. One of the questions, one of the very last questions is, how would I go and make this survey better? And I've got, you've missed this, and this. And then I've got other responses where it's like, I know this actually was only 5 minutes to respond, but it can feel so long when you're answering the same question over and over. And I'm like, all right, there's balance there. I've hit the right spot.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense.
Cool. So
I'm setting it up on my side too, so that we can get a good sample set, because you've got yours going, and I want to contribute myself as well. So I'm ready.
Excellent. So yeah, this is just a bit of background information on answers for AWS. That's what I sort of decided to call the surveys, the answers for AWS survey. And that shouldn't get me into any trouble, because I used to have that as a consulting company back in the day. Nice. So a bit of background information here on what I'm actually doing here, and then we just go straight into the survey. What I decided to do was, when I was talking to folks, they're like, well, it's a survey. Like, this can be spoofed, this can be hacked, this can be like, you can forge the data. And so I'm like, well, what's the
EC2
minimum...
team can come in here and completely override it.
Right. So like, what's the minimum that I can do here? Requiring a Google login seemed like the simplest thing that I could do. And I don't get the email as a result of this. So like it actually says like not shared here. So even though you do require a Google login to do this, I can't access like what Google account you used. So it's still 100% anonymous as you go through the survey.
Unless you actually answer it in the form, you don't contribute.
Correct.
It. Anybody that's done
voluntary.
A Google form, yeah, exactly.
Yep. So first section is the one that I think is a good one to start with, is infrastructure as code. So the basic structure of the survey is you go through and all the different services that are here, and then what you're doing is you're saying like, what are your thoughts on this? So Chris, for you, CloudFormation, have you heard of it?
Oh boy, yes, I have heard of CloudFormation.
Have you used it?
I've heard of it and I have used it, yes.
And would you use it again?
Oh, see, now is where you're going to get me into trouble. As a Terraform aficionado, I would say that I probably would not use it again. As long as Terraform maintains its high level of quality. Okay, never mind, I'll stop now.
So then for Terraform, that sounds like you are a user and would use it again.
That is accurate.
Very good. Now, CDK, I think, is really interesting. I haven't had an opportunity to really take it for a spin. I've only done like the demos and the workshops that I've done at reInvent and what have you. Yep. So have you used the CDK, and either the regular one that generates the CloudFormation or the one that generates Terraform?
So I am in the same boat as you with both of these. I have not used it in a production capacity, but I would like to learn. So I actually bought the book from our esteemed fellow AWS heroes that created the CDK book, and I have yet to crack it.
It's a really interesting concept of back in the day. With CloudFormation, there was a project called Troposphere. I don't know if you ever used it, but it was a Python way of defining what you wanted your CloudFormation templates to look like. So you had a real full-on programming language that you would use to go and generate your CloudFormation templates. And so I created something that I called the Cloud Native Framework before it was, this was back in 2014. And through the consulting company that I was running, it didn't matter if the company was doing baby monitors or Airbnb for boats, or they were another SaaS service. Every one of these companies wanted the same underlying infrastructure. And back then, you had your VPC with your public and private, and you would split it out, and you would then want to run whatever your database of choice was. So you'd spin up your RDS and like all that sort of stuff. And I had this whole framework built out in Troposphere that would programmatically look at things like, well, how many availability zones are in your particular account? Okay, I'll go and generate subnets for each one of those. And I thought it was such a great idea. So I'm really interested in CDK, but haven't taken it for a spin yet.
Yep. So it sounds like you and I are in the same boat with that.
Yeah.
I saw Anton's meme recently where the girl smacking her head into the different windows until she finally gets out the door, and he pasted, I'm not going to say the names of the services because I don't want to make fun of anybody whose feelings might get hurt, but that was quite humorous and I got a giggle.
Yeah. Cool. What about Pulumi?
Used it and would use it again. I've played with it a little bit, and it's
What do you like about it?
I'm a big fan of Python. I've been Calvin Hendricks Parker has been jamming Python down my throat for 3 years now, and I'm finally that's not a fair statement. I have also been interested, and so full disclosure, I did not come from development like most of the other heroes. I was an ops guy who has been learning development, late in my dotage, and so I love the fact that you can take a general purpose language and then leverage that to create infrastructure. I mean, I like them both for different. I love HCL and I love Python, obviously both for two different reasons. Pulumi seems to scratch that itch right in the middle, and so that's why I've been a fan of that.
Nice. Next on our list is Ansible. I loved Ansible back in the day.
Yep, me too. Used it and would use it again. Absolutely. Terraform plus Ansible equals hearts.
Yep. Actually, when I discovered Ansible, I didn't know Python.
Really?
And I was talking to, I discovered Ansible really early on, like version 0.3, 0.4. And I was defining my inventory in the ini file, the format that they had. I was talking to Michael on IRC, I guess it was back then, of like the AWS API, like that is my inventory. Like, can't I just query that? And he's like, well, I built something for one of the other technologies. So I did think about this being programmatic. Why don't you go and write it? I'm like, all right, like how hard can it be? So I learned Python and wrote the EC2 inventory plugin for Ansible, and submitted it, and that made it into version 0.5 or 0.6. And I don't think anyone knows it, but that was my very first like real Python code.
Nice. Look at you.
Back in the day. All right, what about AWS OpsWorks?
I like that you said IRC. I was like, I called him up on the BBS and all of us in one day. Yeah. That was a throwback. All right. OpsWorks. Where's my head with OpsWorks now? Because this is the 2023 survey. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Where are you at with OpsWorks?
I don't think anyone at AWS gives it any love anymore. I think I think Chef in general has sort of lost all of its luster that it had at one point.
It's not even in the certification exams anymore, I don't think. Like they're not heard of it, not interested. That's where my head's at.
Is there anything else that you use to manage infrastructure as code?
There are other things that I've heard of, but nothing that I would bring into contention with these guys as far as anything that's like anywhere close to mainstream or anywhere close to production level ready for an environment. So I'm gonna say no.
All right. And how happy are you in general with the state of infrastructure as code tools?
Wow, that's a loaded question. How happy am I? I can't think a thought and then it turn into IAC. So I'm very unhappy. It's far too difficult. No, I'm gonna say I'm going to say 3. I'm right in the middle. My sense of happiness is not predicated upon the state of IAC tooling.
Very good.
Wow, we are never going to get through this thing, are we?
Well, see, I knew this would, have a lot more conversation around it. So I'm like, all right, we can do this as a brown bag. CI/CD was the next section, and I talked to a lot of folks about, do I bundle services together? Do I keep them separate? And very, very mixed here. So I'm like, it's so mixed, I have to keep them separate. And let's see where they actually land. So that's what I did. Code build. Have you used that before?
I'm gonna say used it and would not use it again. Until it's I don't ever like, giving a blanket statement of used it and would never use it again, because never say never. But as it stands right now with the current existing tooling that's out there, I tend to not go for it because there's other things that are mo better.
Right. And code pipeline. This one I took for a spin when it first came out and haven't touched it again since.
Same boat. I'm gonna same, used it and wouldn't use it again.
Code deploy.
Same for now.
Yep. And what about CodeStar? I didn't even realize that CodeStar was a separate service. I thought CodeStar was the star as in all the 3 above it.
I thought that too, like code wildcard.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought it was. And then I actually looked into it. I'm like, no, it is an actual separate service.
What is it? What kind of half-ass AWS heroes are we? We stink. We need to get de-heroed.
Well, they all say the same thing, quickly develop, build, and deploy applications on AWS. I don't know what that means. Isn't that what the rest of these do as well?
Yeah.
And Code Catalyst. So now,
that's why I thought that this was like a blanket term for the codes things. Oh my gosh. All right.
No, I think, yeah.
Okay. So to answer this question, honestly, I have to say never heard of it, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't even know enough about it to know if I'm not interested in it or not.
Right.
Okay. So Code Catalyst, this is no brainer. I have not used it, but I would like to learn. I have a tendency to not touch anything until at least 6 months after it's been announced GA. But by then, some of the rough edges have been filed off of it. So I'm still in my biding my time period for Code Catalyst.
Yeah, I either run in the same camp, or I've been waiting for this for so long that I just use it as soon as I have access to it. And it's almost binary. I either jump on something as soon as it's released, or I wait until it's in GA.
You get so excited you can't help yourself, and you jump in, get pissy about it, and then complain. Yeah, I have the exact same brain.
AWS Proton.
I've heard of it. I'm not particularly interested in it. My skill set does not lean towards that, so that's not really in my wheelhouse. GitHub. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Jenkins. I'm like, all right, I think I need to put in non-AWS services here, because I feel like these things are still very much getting used. And I think the comparison is necessary here.
Yep, I agree. So GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Jenkins, and GitLab CI/CD are, well, actually, no, hold on. So GitHub Actions, used and would use again. Circle CI, used and would use again. Jenkins, never used it, would like to learn. And GitLab CI/CD, used it and would use again.
Very good. And then we've got options and happiness. So the other thing about this survey, everything is optional. So in the interest of time and keeping things going, I'm just going to skip those. I'm not going to hit submit on this one anyway.
I will diligently go through mine because I want you to have good data.
Well, thank you.
have to go through all of it in our journey tonight.
So for building serverless applications, this is something that I am still struggling with between these two. I was a very big fan of serverless framework when it came out. I had Austin come and talk at the meetup and like helped him promote a bunch of stuff. And it was so good. And the plugins that they had, they just made it so easy. And Sam came out and I'm like, this looks like a copy of serverless framework, like just the way that they did it all. Like that's kind of not cool. But when I look at how things have changed over the last like 3-4 years, Sam's really sort of taken off and is very much, I would say, in the lead now. So I'm like, oh, I had so much invested.
And unfairly, they have an adorable little mascot. So that, I mean, you know, when you find an adorable mascot for a service, it has a tendency to take off.
I don't have an adorable mascot for this survey. That's the problem.
That's why we got an adorable mascot for the Portsmouth user group, the pug. We have a cartoon pug, a little puppy pug. The stickers go like wildfire. Nobody knows who the hell the user group is, but the stickers are amazing.
All right, now see, this is I come to the virtual brown bag to learn about marketing.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Because I'm an ops guy, I'm going to have to answer a particular way. But because so speaking of the pug, my two co-organizers, Serverless Chris and Christy Peralt, AWS Serverless Hero, would have my head. I have to answer, never used it, but would like to learn. So. And that is the truth. I would love to learn it. Serverless is, I mean, because I'm not a developer, serverless isn't, you know, a powerful tool in my toolkit. So this is going to overall be a weak section for me.
Got it. And serverless frameworks similar?
Yeah, same thing. I don't have enough knowledge to have antipathy or interest towards it. So these are things that I would like to learn.
Got it. And this is the one and only service, I think, that I repeated in this survey, because I've seen a lot of folks talk about using CDK to go and manage serverless as well. And that makes a lot of sense if you're already writing in JavaScript or TypeScript to go and run your infrastructure through TypeScript. That makes a lot of sense to me. So that's the one service that I've actually repeated in here.
That makes sense. Cool. So I'm gonna mark most of these, never used it and would like to learn.
Got it.
Is that going to taint the pool in any way? I mean, because the way that you're getting, I mean, the types of people that you want for this aren't just developers. You want all AWS users, people from operations, people from sysadministration, DevOps, and developers. So okay.
And again, like only like I would say I don't even think you would taint it that way. If you don't answer a question, that's not a problem. Like if you just like maybe application composer, like I have no idea. I don't know what it is. Like you could tick that, or you could even just leave it blank. I don't think it matters. Like,
it doesn't negatively skew your graph at the end of this. Okay, cool.
No. And then I had to include Ken's project here because I love Ruby on Rails.
Do you really?
I have not found anything that has come out since Ruby on Rails that has a developer experience as good as it. You can take an idea and generate something useful as a prototype in no time at all. The scaffolding that they've got in there, all of the libraries, you can have like full authentication and permissions and a testing framework and like all of that. And they've nailed, in my opinion, the developer experience.
Wow.
But it it doesn't have, it hasn't in the past. I think this is very much changing, but it hasn't in the past had execution speed. So if you go and compare something that's written in Ruby to something that's written in Go, it's night and day. Like Go just completely outperforms it.
Gotcha.
But it took so much longer to write. And then when I go back and change it, like, and yes, it's not typed, but you can have a really good testing framework, so it really doesn't matter. Like, I love Ruby. There's my rant.
Awesome.
All right, running containers. This might be a little bit more for you with the ops side.
Yep, let's do this. Okay, so ECS used it and would use again. EKS used it and would use again. Self-managed Kubernetes. I've heard of it, but I'm not interested. Not if I'm going to be doing it within Amazon. I don't have enough needs to roll my own in an environment that doesn't want me to be doing that to begin with.
Yeah.
Fargate. I've never used it, but I would like to learn.
I love Fargate.
Well,
where
yeah.
Getting rid of managing all of the EC2 instances, the auto scaling groups, just whoosh, and using Fargate. Like I did it at my last company, and never had an issue with Fargate. It's what ECS should have been out of the gate, and what everyone thought it was out of the gate, really.
Far out of the gate. I see what you did there. I have not yet had a customer that has specifically needed it, or it was already in the environment. So and for some reason it hasn't like made its way into its architecture. Some of the customers I deal with are like, just dipping their toes in. So it's one of the things that I desperately want to start getting into.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
All right, Lambda for running containers, used it and would use again. Beanstalk, I'm gonna go used it and would not use again.
This is another one of the big drivers for doing this survey. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who, they've got an idea, they are much better on the coding side than the operations side. They look at AWS, they try and figure out how am I going to run this thing, and they are still today choosing Beanstalk. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah, I mean
and I haven't had data that I could show them to say, look, don't use this thing.
And that is generally the paradigm in which when I go into a customer site, I see Beanstalk usage. I was like, all right, who didn't give the developer an ops person to teach them sanity? And then they're like, oh, it's me. I'm like, bad developer. No, don't do it. All right, same for Lightsail. Heard of it, and I'm not interested.
What about App Runner?
You know what? I don't know what that is.
It's sort of similar.
Is it?
You take a container and like the idea is you just like have them run it for you.
Okay. Well, in the spirit of honesty, I have to answer. Never heard of it. Not sure what it is.
Love it. And then what about OpenShift?
So this is the funny part. Farrah Campbell is currently in the audience, and I know that she's like got a checkbox going. Yeah. All right. Do we really want this guy to stick around? We might have to. There's going to be a meeting in my near future. Hey, Chris. So on your second vBrownBag.
Farah, just wait until the data comes out, and you'll see just how much Chris's opinion isn't reflective of the rest of the community.
Everybody uses App Runner except Chris.
Right.
With that one statistical anomaly way on the left side of the bell curve. It's going to be terrible. So we actually had a Red Hat OpenShift on AWS presenter last year come in and do a presentation. So I've not used it. It looks interesting. I don't currently have a use case, but I would like to learn it. I mean, that's in the bucket of things that I would be amenable to learning about.
Right. Yeah, I have a little bit of experience with OpenShift, and if you're going to use Kubernetes, it seemed like it was a nice layer to have on top of it.
Yep. And it's gotten significantly better. I mean, they've poured a lot of resources into it. Excuse me. And from its early iterations to today, it's become a lot more stable.
Yeah. Are there any options that we didn't include here? I know Corey did a blog post, 17 ways of running containers, and there weren't 17 answers here. And then he did a follow-up on second 17 ways, and those are definitely not in here.
So back to my previous statement of things that are out there that could potentially be added, but should or should not be. I can't think of anything that we should definitely add in here.
Yeah.
Kelsey Hightower might have a different opinion. I do not.
You happy with how they're running containers?
I am happy. Yeah. You know what? But I'm never a 5. I hate it when people do that. It's not like whenever
nothing could possibly be better.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I never put 10. It's like, I mean, you have to, and maybe I'm overthinking the value of a pure 10, and maybe marketing people hate me because of that. But I very rarely give a 10 for anything or a 5 on a 5 scale.
Yeah. Totally fair. So the next couple sections, we've got databases, we've got machine learning. I think they're the last 2 that are in here before the demographic stuff. So I don't know if they're going to be as useful for you as the other ones, but we can go through them anyway.
Well, when you were coming up with the survey, you said that you had to think around how to bucketize everything and what your thought process was for that. How did you finally decide on how to break things down?
The databases was one of the harder ones because I started having RDS, and then I'm like, well, what is that actually going to tell me? Like, I need to break that down into MySQL or Postgres, and then, well, wait, there's also Maria and SQL servers in there, and I think you can run Oracle now, but then you can run them in Aurora, but then you can also run them in serverless. I'm like, what would that actually tell me at the end of the day? I don't know. I don't think I would change what I would do in a database based on any of the information that was there. So I actually scrapped that whole section. And then only had the non-relational databases listed here. So Dynamo, the various other flavors, and then your graph database and your time stream. So they're the ones that I landed. And that was a little bit more curious. Like, I haven't had a graph problem, and so haven't taken something like Neptune for a spin yet.
Right.
But if I did, that would be where I would go. Right. And I would be curious to know, like, are people actually using Neptune, or are they using Neo4j? Like, which path would I go? And so, like, that would be one of the things that I might have a look at here.
So I went ahead and filled in. So for DynamoDB, used it and would use again. MongoDB or DocumentDB, used it and would use again. Cassandra, never used it, would like to learn. Elasticsearch Redis, used it and would use again. Memcache, used it and would use again. MemoryDB for Redis, never used it, would like to learn. Neptune, never used it, would like to learn. TimeStream, never heard of it, not sure what it is, in all transparency. And Elasticsearch, used it and would use again. You have used DocumentDB, their MongoDB flavor. A customer has used it, and it was back-ending a system for them, and I had to, leverage it, maintain it, take a look at it. I am not a database administrator by any stretch of the imagination, right. but it has been used in certain use cases for some of my customers.
Interesting. Okay. This is one I'm also curious about because I've heard really mixed things about DocumentDB. But Atlas is a very good business that Mongo is running. And so I'm curious, like what is actually happening in that space. Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, there was one more section that was in here, and that was event-driven architectures. This one I'm curious whether folks are actually adopting step functions as a way of defining what they want to do. And I've struggled with this one a lot. Whenever I've done a workshop that's using step functions, I'm like, this is like pretty cool, like how they've stitched it all together. And now that there's the graphical way of like building your flows, I'm like, that's pretty cool. And then I've gone to actually use it in a real product. I'm like, I could just be writing all of this in code. And so like, I really want to use that, but there's something about the user experience that has just stopped me from using it for real. Like it's fantastic for learning though. I don't know what it is. Something's not gelling for me with that one.
I mean, the people that use step functions that from my user group and the people that I speak to in the wild, the people that actually use step functions are rabid fans. It sounds like one of those polarizing technologies that you either are, both feet in the water or you're like looking at it askance from the side of the pool. I'm not sure what the delineating factor is that causes that, polarization.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and go through these and answer these honestly as a non. Yeah, I'll skip this and come back to mine later.
Very good. Yeah.
Most of these are going to be haven't used, would learn again, but there's like, kinesis, used it and would use again. Okay, I'll fill those out.
Yeah, SQS, SNS. I'm sure most people have used those, but then you get into Amazon MQ and like, well, if you haven't really used RabbitMQ in the past, maybe you haven't used the hosted version of it.
Right.
AppFlow is interesting. And then this I put in here for historical purposes. I think I saw one comment on this. I'm like, that someone was saying, did you just invent service names? I'm like, no, I'm not Corey. Like I wouldn't do that to anyone. But so this is
Route 53, the database.
Yeah, exactly. To see like, is anyone still using the simple workflow? I don't know.
That is also not in the exam anymore.
There you go.
All right. Yes, very happy. Solid 4.
Excellent.
All right. AI. Let's see, we've got SageMaker, augmented AI. Comprehend. Elastic interface. All right. Anything that you wanted to talk about with these? I'm a big fan of recognition from a demo perspective. Getting a picture of a user group and then taking it, slapping it into recognition and seeing the different data points that you can extract from the, how happy are these people? Oh, they're very angry.
Right. My favorite workshop at reInvent last year, we used the Chime SDK to build a web conferencing app. We used a transcribe to take the voice that I was talking and transcribe that into text. And then we used translate so that the person that I was talking to could speak Spanish and I could see the English translation, and I could speak English and they would see the Spanish translation. As a way of combining some of these tools, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I really like that.
You created your own Babelfish live.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, in a 2.5-hour workshop or whatever it was. But these services are like legit, like they are that easy to use.
I'm sorry, I'm clicking through.
Oh, good.
Cool. Well, is there anyone that in particular that you're a fan of? Which ones in here are the ones that you wanted to talk about?
Having an accent Translate, I think they've done a really good job at. I tried. I tried to mess with it, and it did pretty well. Like far better than asking Siri to send a text message while you're driving.
So when you say having an accent, obviously you have a I don't think you have a thick Australian accent by any stretch. I think it's very mild.
Yeah, I got beaten to submission.
So
when
can you
when
make
I
a
came
super
over
thick
here,
accent? Can
well,
you?
I mean, I can put it on. And so right now, my accent, I would say, is not accepted anywhere. Like if I'm in Sydney, they're like, "Oh, you sound so American." In America, like they can tell that I'm not from around here. And
Can't wait for losing.
I had to learn how to pronounce my ERs. So in Australia, I'd be Peter. But over here, I'm Peter. Like everything that I had to adapt means that people understand me more now. So you adapt as you match the environment.
Well, especially
cool
if when the computer doesn't understand you, it drives my wife
bananas. Oh no, this was humans.
Sorry,
this is humans too. My wife remembers this story of we'd had a rough day. We went to a coffee shop and like, you know what, I'm just gonna order 2 mochas and we'll just have a drink, we'll reset and everything. And we're there and I'm ordering the coffees. And I had only been here a couple of months at that point, and I said, "May I have 2 mochas?" And she's like, "Blueberry or bran?" I'm like, "What? No, I want 2 mochas." Like, "Yes, blueberry or bran." And my wife remembers looking over at me and seeing my whole like, "I'll have a mocha." "Oh, a mocha. Why didn't you say so?"
What did she think you were saying?
Muffin.
Maca. She went from maca to muffin. There's no F. There's no F in maca. You could at the very least make an educated guess and just change it to it's. No, never mind. Never mind. So I spent a lot of my life overseas, so my brain is fairly elastic with vowel noises and R's. I'll take like a German umlaut. I will turn that into a U very easily in my head, so that I'm not going, "You're not from around here, boy. What's that mean?"
Right.
Oh. Yeah, accents and automated technology sometimes don't mix.
Right.
I spent 10 years in the South, so a lot of my Southern friends that are trying to like talk to Siri or Alexa or whatever like that, hilarity always ensues. So
yeah,
good stuff.
Totally.
Okay, what's
We're at
what's
the
the
end.
next one? What already?
I know.
Okay, here we go. How old are you?
This is just demographics information. I'm not going to make you fill this out online.
Oh,
it's just demographics info.
Yeah, but
this was a thing that I did on purpose. A lot of things that I saw were generating countries. And I think there are so many countries within Europe. I would rather just know, like, what does it look like in Europe versus other areas. So I grouped them this way rather than by country.
And you put Antarctica down there for the three users at McMurdo Air Station.
Exactly. I'm sure there's someone in Antarctica that's using AWS.
Yeah,
they're collecting data. They're doing some analysis. They want to know what's going on.
That's true. That's true. How did you find out about the survey? Pete sent me.
And then this, like, the whole thing is anonymous, and this is the only place where if you want to get notified about the results, here's where you can put in your email. But yeah, otherwise.
Awesome. All right, I will go back through and make sure that I did answer everything honestly and correctly, because I think there was one that I screwed up on, or that I forgot about. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was certainly less than 5 minutes and a very quick blaze through the AWS survey.
I promise it really is less than 5 minutes.
Oh, it totally is. We drug this out. We're ridiculous.
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you get all of this data, when are you putting a cap on this at some point?
Yeah. So again, like just following what they did for the JavaScript one. So they kept the survey open for a month, collected the responses, and then once the month is out, close the survey, do the post-processing that you need to do, and then publish the results. And that's my plan. So I don't think I can use the huge mono repo of code that they've got, just because there's so much that I would need to learn in there. So I've got a month to go and write the response, like the response survey. The display of the data.
Right, the graph and the different.
But I know the libraries they're using, so I can put that all together.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You know what? We should get this out to the AWS community builders as well, and have them, one, fill it out themselves, and two, promote it out to their audiences as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't even had all of the heroes like do this yet.
Slackers.
And then I don't know if this will work or not, but I did post this in the user groups Slack, and then there's hundreds of user groups across the world. Each one of those has hundreds of people. I'm like, all right, like if they can mention it as part of running their meetups, love it.
That is a fantastic idea. In fact, we are going to do that. The AWS Portsmouth user group next week, when we do the reInvent recap with Jackie Grinrod, AWS developer advocate extraordinaire and close personal friend of ours, is going to talk. We'll make sure that everybody does the link and takes the survey as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate
it. and the only reason why she's not cussing us out right now is because she's on mute. Awesome. Well, Peter, thanks for coming on the show. Super appreciate the effort that you've put into creating this for us. I'll be very interested in seeing what kind of information we get out of it. That's going to be very illuminating. And it'll be interesting to see additionally what kind of information we get from it, so that we can enhance the 2024 version, the 2025 version, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we should be taking bets on the most loved and the most hated AWS services.
Have a running pool in the Hero Slack.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. We've got a question. I'm definitely listening while playing guitar. Oh, she's learning guitar, and so she's listening and playing at the same time. Yeah,
excellent.
We should all bring our guitars and start a little AWS band.
That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
I've got my bass in the corner right there. You've got your 6 strings.
Yeah.
And Jackie also, I think she's a burgeoning DJ. She's got like a DJ equipment too. So
great. So we got the drums. We can have a background track.
We're set. We are good to go for this. We got to do it. And a trumpet. She's so random. Awesome. Well, Peter, thank you once again. And we will get this out to our audience and tell them to go take the survey, so we can learn all about what things that what AWS services are beloved, reviled, and everything in between.
Love it. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
We try to keep it loosey-goosey and fun.
Yeah.
It's
success.
Yeah. Congratulations on being unprofessional, Chris. You have succeeded. All right, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.